Good evening, good evening, good evening. Jeff Moore here. Jeff the Wealth Builder, financial advisor, strategist, cash value life insurance enthusiast. We're on Money Mondays. And you know I love Mondays because we get the opportunity to talk to a dope financial professional and share some strategies on wealth building and how we can close the wealth gap here in America. So welcome today. I have a special guest that I'm so excited about because it's not too many times we get the opportunity to talk to someone that's in the investment space as far as apartments and apartment buildings in this real estate investing. So we have a special guest today, Mr. Clarence Carter. We call him CJ, and we're going to break this science thing down on how to get involved and get in this space of real estate investing, specifically with apartments. What's up, CJ? How you doing, man?
Jeff, what's going on, man? I am great, and I'm honored. I'm honored to be here to share the stage with you, man, and I'm looking forward to a great time.
And I'm glad that you're here today, man. It ain't too many times we get to, talk to some wealth builders that got their little specialties. So we're gonna dive into some things. Hopefully, the audience will get to appreciate and get some exposure to what this apartment investing is all about, and if it's something that they can incorporate into their financial strategy. And we just want to just make sure that you get some exposure to all of these wealth building tools that you can utilize, that you can incorporate into your financial strategy. And particularly since we're on this quest to close the wealth gap here in America and really start to utilize and get exposed to some strategies for building generational wealth. So I am so excited to have you here. But who is CJ? Who is Clarence Carter? Why don't you give us your 2 minute spill so that the people who may not know you will get the understanding of how dynamic and the dope individual that you really are.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I hope it lives up to the dynamic and dopeness. But look, man, I'm a kid from DC that found my way into the Marine Corps. I decided I needed a different life. I wanted a different life than what I was exposed to growing up. And the Marine Corps completely changed my life in many ways, from boot camp to my time over in Iraq. In life-threatening situations, but all of that prepared me to go through all the things that I was about to get into. One of those things was technology, which I believe was a catalyst to propel me into just about any industry that I wanted to be in. And I knew that in order to not have to continue to work my back off, right? Like in the Marine Corps, I'd have to go and get some money behind me that could do some of the work for me. And so I started investing in the stock market, had some huge wins there. And, Tesla was my very first investment, there on the day that they IPO'd. And then from there, I took the bag and I started throwing it over into real estate. And what I can tell you with technology, it allowed me the mindset. It gave me the mindset to think through just about, I want to say just about anything. And so that gave me the ability to do the analysis on what stocks that I wanted to pick. It gave me the analysis to know that I didn't want to do single family. And I started out with apartments, man. So that's a little bit about me, man.
Yo, thank you, man. Thanks a lot, man. And first of all, I want to say thank you for serving our country, man, because that is a really big thing. And I just want to give you your flowers now for serving, because service is a great thing to enjoy all of the benefits that we have, that we enjoy. America's not a perfect place, but because of the service that of our military personnel, we get to have some very unique and some special freedoms that many in other countries do not enjoy. So thank you for serving our country. Thank you for being a part of the great American story. And I want you to talk a little bit about, like, oh, I lost them. What happened?
Uh-oh.
I lost you real quick. Okay, you came back,
I don't
baby.
know.
What
I'm
you
not
what
gonna
you
let you
do?
know.
I gave you all this great thing about serving the country, and then you cut
I
off
heard
on
you.
me.
I heard you. I heard you, man. Maybe
All right,
that's
so
it because it speaks for itself, right? it speaks for
Yes.
itself. I'm loving that you're acknowledging it. I mean, but just remember, I know that people that came home from Vietnam and from those times, they didn't have it. And as a matter of fact, it was the exact opposite that they received. And so to receive the love now, look, man, I get it, but again, it's a team effort, it's a country effort. So I appreciate you, but at the same time, man, it's like, let's just keep going, right?
I know that's right. I always give a special thank you, like whenever I see military personnel anywhere I go, because I really I don't take it for granted that we have some special freedoms. And like I said before, America is not a perfect place, but we enjoy some freedoms that many in other countries do not. So looking at your experience in the Marine Corps, right? How did that experience like really prepare you or help you in your approach to real estate investing, especially when you're looking at investing in the apartment space? Like how did that military background help you in that regard?
So I'll say that it even started with one decision before the Marine Corps. And
Okay.
that was, well, I wasn't that good in school, but I wanted to do great things. And my mom gave me the option. She said, these are the choices. You either going to college or you're going to the military. And college just wasn't a thought of mine. It just wasn't. I hated school with a passion. And that was probably prejudgment on my side, not even looking into college. But I said, if I'm going to go do the military, I'm going to do the doggone best. And so I went after that red and black. I went after the Marines because they said they the few and the proud. So it started there, right? I wanted to do something, and if I was going to do anything, it was going to be big. And getting into the Marine Corps, it was even more than that, right? Where whatever you can think, whatever, if you've never been in the military in any way, shape, or form, whatever you think of it, just multiply it by 1,000, right?
Okay.
Because it's just that taxing on you in so many different ways, and not just physically but mentally. The brainwashing that has to happen. I know a lot of people talk down about it, but at the same time, if you are instilled the ability to go over into a foreign country and fight for our country to keep the war there and not here, some things have probably got to change within your mind. And so, hey, it had to happen. So things changed there. But I'll say it forced me to want to think big, man. Like I didn't want just the M16 rifle. I became the 50 cal gunner, right? So I was 160 some pounds, carrying around a 100-pound gun ready to go, right? I wanted to do it big. Even past that, what was I going to do? We went to places like Dubai and did really 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 crazy things over there. Good things, but then a little bit of here and there. Um, it just forced me to really think outside of the box as to what humans are able to do, regardless if you can do it or not. It's the simple fact of getting in the fight and then allowing the fight to play out. And so that's really it, man. So go after big things, but be able to turn those things into really, really, really small, accomplishable goals.
So how did you apply your military training into this lucrative, confusing, big, audacious, investing, especially when you're talking about investing in apartments? Like, how did that military experience like help in that regard?
Um, a lot of different ways. And so again, that being able to think big, not willing to settle, right? And so
Okay.
when I decided to invest in real estate, just the normal rich dad, poor dad, mentality. Oh yeah, let's go buy a house. And by that time, I was already doing pretty well within technology, and I saw what I was going to be making with a little duplex. I think it was $100 a month or something. I was like, that's not it. That's not worth my time. I got to go through this, and this, and maybe $200 a month. No, and then somehow, some way, again, continuing to move forward, right? A lot of people will say, "Oh, well, that's not exactly what I was looking for, so I'm gonna just go another way."
Okay.
No, I didn't necessarily, the military. This may not be. I know that there's something here, but the first thing that I discovered, this this might not be the answer, but let's keep going a little bit further past it. And then that's
Okay.
when I got introduced to the world of multifamily. And then, of course, I'm like, whoa, this is huge. I don't have millions of dollars. I can't do this. And for some reason, somehow I went on YouTube, started learning a little bit more information. It's like, there is a way to get into this with none of your credit, none of your own money. It's possible to get into these $1 million deals. And then I started studying about those that have come up in these arenas. And we're talking about like Blackstones and BlackRock and these large private equity groups. And if you study where they started and how they started, that really got my wheels to thinking and shifting. And so I started making phone calls, right? I looked on the MLS. The MLS for commercial deals, right? Loopnet.com. And you can go there and you can go check out a lot of commercial deals. And I just started calling agents.
Mhm.
And I'm like, look, I'm looking for something. I'm looking for a deal because I've read some information here. I've talked to a few people here and I got a little bit of cash. I know if I can get the right person on the phone, they might just be willing to talk to me. No one would talk to me besides one person. Just me doing the routine of just calling. A guy answers the phone. I tell him my spiel. I think he was selling $1 million mobile home park. $1 million mobile home park. Those are amazing cash flowing assets. Just to let you know, all of your users should want to own them. But I called him and we started talking, and he could tell at this point in time I was a bit of a newbie. I was kind of a
Okay.
rookie. And he said, "Young man, let me help you out with something." I said, "Okay, cool." He was like, "Well, look, this is my property." I'm like, "All right, okay, you're selling it for the seller, right?" And he's like, "No, this is mine." He ends up being a star NFL player from a few years ago. And he's like, "You don't know who I am?" Unfortunately, when he was the star, I was in Iraq, so I didn't know who
Okay.
he was. So I didn't have the peak stardom feel, right?
Okay.
But what happened there was he ended up sharing some information with me about syndication. He
Wow.
pointed me to a few books, and just in this hour-long call of me just randomly calling people, that guy changed my life. He changed my
What was
life.
the book? What was the book that he shared with you?
The best ever real estate investing book.
Wow, the
I'm
best ever real estate investment book. Okay, I'm gonna have to add that to my reading list. So
it- mhm.
earlier you mentioned you talked a little bit about data and how data like played a role in some of the real estate investing that you were doing, so particularly with the apartments, right? So can you talk a little bit about how the mastering and the tuning into the data, right, and the specific insights that the data gave you? How did you use that to find these lucrative real estate investment opportunities? With these apartments.
Great question. Great question. And so I have to take one step back and tell you that um, with the way residential properties are valued, right?
Hmm.
When you are thinking about purchasing your own primary or just a regular rental single family house, the valuation of it is based on the comparables that are within the neighborhood, right? Comps,
Okay.
right? And so that's how you'll appraise based on what did my neighbor sell for, right?
Hmm.
That's generally how you'll get an average of that, and that's how you come up with that pricing. On a 5 unit and up, that's not the truth. What
Okay.
happens there is the valuation is based on how much money this asset produces. So how
Okay.
much money after your revenue comes in minus your expenses, and then your NOI, right? Your net operating income. That times a multiplier tells you how much this thing is worth. So this became a bit of an accounting data thing, right? To understand, okay, well, this minus this equals this times whatever this is for that area. That gets me. So all of those data pieces, what we'll go after is the trailing 12 months. So you want to
Okay.
know, how has this property performed over the last 12 months, right? And
Okay.
so typically you'll hear it, if you're going to ask a broker for, is the T12, right? And so you'll take that. But then when we go really deep into the data in analytics, is what the three most important things is in the location of where you're thinking about investing, is what is the job growth, what is the rent growth, and what is the population growth,
So
right?
job growth, rent growth, and population growth. Those are
Population
the
growth.
key things that we
Yes,
want to look at
yes.
as opposed to the powder property as cash flow. Did I hear that correctly?
Not opposed to, in addition to.
In addition to, okay.
So just think of it, Jeff, you want to sell me your laundromat business, right? Let's say you got a laundromat business and you want to sell it to me. Okay, great, phenomenal. Laundromats make a lot of money, but in this city, it's Detroit in 1970 or 1980, when the government changes all the laws, and now all of the car manufacturers are moving out. So what happens then? The jobs are not growing; they're declining, and because jobs are declining, population declines.
Mm-hmm.
And when population declines, you can't charge anybody rent. So that gets you, when you're looking at those three indicators. Now I know, okay, Jeff, you told me it made 100,000 last year, but now when I look at those, I can determine, will it make 100,000 or 200,000 next year.
Gotcha.
That's how those things tie in together.
So what was your first apartment investment like? What was that like?
Yeah, so my first one, it was a passive investment, right? And so this is we can get into all the legalities around it. But what I used my retirement account. So I left one of my jobs, and there was my retirement account, my regular 401k. I converted some of that money over into an SDIRA, a self-directed. You know what I'm talking. I don't need to tell you anything like that. But I
That's real
converted it
estate,
over.
right?
Right. I opened up an SDIRA, and I used that to go in with a syndicator that I fell in love with, and I knew that I could grow it, learn from, and make some money from. So that was. Mhm.
That was good. That was a good. That was a good thing and a good strategy. So, what key thing did you learn from your first real estate investment that you still apply today?
What key I mean, the major thing is relationships, right?
Okay.
It's who you're dealing with.
Okay.
That is the big thing. On Now, outside of the investment itself, is make sure you choose the right company to set up your SDIRA with. That was probably the biggest hiccup that I had. I'm
Okay.
not here to bash anyone, but when you need some money moved and it's 5 figures or more, you want it moved when you want it moved. So that's something huge. Is I'm very particular with what companies I house my funds with. But then past that, it's the relationships.
Mhm.
Those are the key things for me. Most people will probably say is within the numbers, understanding the investment, but that just becomes second nature to me, right? It's so second nature to me that you tell me about a deal. Well, you can't tell me what a deal. You can't tell me about a deal without sending me the underwriting. You need to send me that. Tell me where it is, and now I'm going to go and throughout all of my different resources to understand what is rent growth, what is population growth, what is the job growth, right? I'm looking at all of those things on my own. But the key thing there is who are you dealing with? Who are you partnering with? Because these are typically 5 year long deals, right? I think right now you can there's probably 10 year long deals. I'm not getting into any of those, but they can be as short as 1 year as well. So that's the key thing, is like, who are you dealing with? Because you're about to deal with them for a good amount of time.
So I'm curious, like you say who you're dealing with, right? And because that partnership and that relationship is very important. I'm a really big proponent on relationship capital. I think
Yes.
relationships are the most viable thing and more important than money, because relationships can get you things that money can't. I'm curious in the sense that your military background, your military experience, apartment investing can be very risky. So help me to make that connection on how you utilize your military experience to help you to navigate the risk management and real estate investing, in particular in investing in apartments.
Yeah. So one of the key things in the military is relationships, right? I'm over there and fighting. I'll be honest with you, Jeff. I'll be honest with you. 2004, Phantom Fallujah. We're over there fighting for, you would think, our country, but in reality, we're fighting for those three guys that are in our squad. We
Okay.
going home, right? So it is those, that key thing is who is in this relationship, right? Who
Okay.
who has who's back at any point in time. If one person falls off, it can someone else pick up the weight? Are they willing to pick up the weight? Right? It's not that we look at, everyone gets into a place where you might fall down. The thing is are you dealing with a team that can pick you back up, right? Or at least cover you before that time. I do want to cover something real quick before, leading up to the question. You talked about, building, how important it is to build these relationships. Jeff, I'm telling you, you need to amplify that, especially within this realm, because most people can't get into these types of deals unless they are an accredited investor, right?
Okay.
Which means that they have to be making $200,000 or more consecutively, within more than 2 years, and then also, or have $1 million net worth minus their primary home. So this only allows for not even 20% of our nation to be able to get into these types of things, right? Unless you have friends and family. Obama actually introduced that last one, the former one, where you have to make the money, you have to be an accredited investor, right? That wasn't even there before. It was literally, you got to have friends and family. So if we want to talk about, we weren't talking about it, but
Come on, go
redlining,
for it.
redlining was real, and I'm gonna tell you, it still is real to this day, because who are the people? Who are the majority of the people that are not accredited investors or do not have $1 million net worth and do not make $200,000 a year? Minorities. And so because of that, they're left out of even having these opportunities. So going back forward, it's extremely risky, but walking out of my house is risky as well. Walking across the street is risky as well. But the thing is investing in real estate, it's less risky to invest in 100 units than it is one. Why? Because 10 people can leave and I still have 90% of the income, right? And so those are some of the things, man, that I think are extremely, extremely important. And you see that within the military as well. The bigger the army, the bigger the number of troops, more likely we know who's going to win this war, who has the most troops on the ground.
Wow. That's a great thing. I'm thinking you threw the Obama reference in there. You talk to some black and brown folks, they say that Obama didn't do nothing for them, but they don't.
You
So I'm
just
glad
didn't
you, I'm glad you,
understand.
I'm glad you put that reference up, because a lot of you talk. It depends on who you talk to. They be like, "Oh, he ain't do nothing. He ain't do nothing for the black and brown folks." But I mean, that was one of the great things that he introduced, that allowed a lot of people to participate on things, especially in some financial vehicles that previously they were not privy to.
Right?
So I'm kind of glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
So that we can have a little time to talk about that as well. And one of the things I'm thinking, like right now, like um, you know relationships, the apartments is real heavily analytical, because you have to have your ducks all lined up. You talked about earlier about the growth population you have to look in, wage statistics, and some other things that you mentioned. Like, let's talk strategy now.
Okay.
What was one of the strategic approaches that you use data that your data that you brought, you know, that you implemented like in this apartment investing space? Like,
Yeah.
could you talk a little bit about strategies on
Yeah.
how you utilize that to kind of elevate your real estate experience?
Yep. So the first deal had to do, it was in Texas, so 242 unit. And
Okay.
so at the time, this is when Fidelity was moving and opening their facilities there, right? Job growth.
Okay.
And so Fidelity, you know Fidelity is, right? Fidelity Investments.
Mhm.
Um, they're not bringing around just $20,000 a year jobs, right? 60,000, 80,000, 100,000 or more.
Mhm.
So now when we're looking at that, when we see these types of companies, you had the exit from the continuous exit from Silicon Valley, where some of the companies just couldn't afford to start up there anymore. They're looking for different places. You had Elon Musk talking about, oh, I'm moving to Texas and all that good stuff, right? And I'm pretty sure you know someone, just like I know plenty of folks that have said, you know what, I'm probably moving to Texas. Texas became a really booming market over the last 5, 6 years or so. A little bit before that, but it really started to heat up within the last few years. That right there, that is a that's a green flag, not a red flag. It's a green flag for, all right, let's pay attention to that state. And then now you want to go down the checklist. Are they tenant friendly, or are they landlord friendly? Right? You want to go, and make sure that those other things, right? So we got the jobs, we got the population, and if the boom is happening so fast, building can't happen fast enough. And when building can't happen fast enough, rent goes up like crazy.
Mhm.
That's where the strategy comes into play, where we're looking at what's the median income, right, of this area and the population. And as we try to look at those trends, if they're trending upwards over the last, 2, 3, 5 years, and they're continuing to trend upwards, and we're getting the news that's feeding it even more, and we can see. And then one last little just key hack, a very, very key hack, is what are the tax incentives that the cities and states are giving companies to come there? Because when that happens, just because Elon was talking about it, whether he comes or not, someone's coming because the tax incentives are there. These companies won't have to pay taxes. Good, bad, or indifferent. So what? They provide jobs. That's just that. And so those are the things where I looked at that investment. Okay, checks the boxes. People are hungry to live there. People are already there. They're making good money so that they can pay the rent. If you've, I know it's probably been a long time, but to get into rent, it's typically about 3 times your income, right? So there we go. How much can they afford? If they're making $100,000 a year, oh, okay, they can pay a pretty decent penny. This is why we've seen the rent go up dramatically over the last few years. So those are some of the components, man. It checked all the boxes for me, right? And then the team that I was going in with it, right?
Okay.
And so that when we got the trends on our side, we know that for the next 5 years, things look really, really, really good. I feel like this is a solid investment. Some of the things that we didn't talk about just yet is what type of property are you investing in, or the class of property that you're are you going after a luxury apartment, or are you going after something that's more of a war zone, right, or something in between? And where I like to play is in between, right? Play
Okay.
in between, because there's less insurance risk, right? And then there's more room for growth, because luxury, I mean, it's already luxury, but we can always take something that's kind of in the middle and make it a little bit better. And when you do that, when you make things a little bit better, the rent can go from $1,000 a month to $1,200 a month. That's only a $200 a month, hike, but multiply that times 242.
Mhm.
We just added a couple $1 million, right, to the
Yeah.
government, right?
Now you talked about the good, right? Let's flip the script now. Let's
Yeah.
talk about the bad, because you're hearing all these things in the news right now. Corporations are laying off. Inflation is robbing a purchasing power. You know, so what's the strategy going to be like now navigating a challenging market? Like, how do you approach that?
Yes. So let's see here. I can touch on a couple of them. Houston, a guy foreclosed on 3,200 units all at
What?
one time. All at one time. And so what happens then? Right? If you foreclose on 3,200 units, what happens then? Well, let's talk about how it happened. He utilized, the thing that caused this bad market was such a great market, right? When
Okay.
you have such a great market, you're gonna have some bad on the back end, right? You have to be prepared for that. What this guy did was he got a lot of short-term debt, right? Where this debt is coming, instead of it being a 10-year mortgage or a 20-year mortgage, you don't typically get a 30-year on these types of deals. Um,
Mhm.
he got 3 years, 3-year deal. Well, that's okay as long as you get out of it. But he waited too long, and Jerome Powell hit him with the pow pow bow by raising the rates. And typically, those short terms, a lot of them are adjustable. But then at the same time, even if it wasn't, um, now when he refinances, he's refinancing at a
Into
different
a higher.
valuation. Exactly. And he was only baking in, he was only underwriting for a mortgage that was down here, right? And so what I'm saying is even though that's a bad thing, and we're seeing a lot of that coming up, I think 2024 alone has on record more debt coming due than any other year that in the past and in the future right now. $924 billion of commercial debt is coming due this year, which is
Mhm.
really bad, but it's also really good.
That's
Why?
right.
Because some of these investors that got into these deals, it's horrible. They're going to lose money. They are losing money. If they can't do another, put another $1 million into it or $2 million into it to save what's there, if they can't afford to do that, they're going to lose that property. And you know what's going to happen? It's going to go on sale for pennies. But that's where the good comes in. If you've been patiently waiting, right, and just scoping out, you're going to run into these deals, and they're going to be very, very, very plentiful. Florida is another market where this has happened. A lot of people during the pandemic, oh, everyone's going to retire in Florida, so we can go buy everything. So if you look at the amount of transactions that happened in Florida over the last like 5 years, it's been freaking ridiculous, in comparison to the previous decades and year over year. But now everyone wants their cut. You got, there are storms and stuff like that, but Florida always gets storms. But the insurance people are like, look, man, y'all making all this money. We need some too. Right? And so insurance rates have gone up, which means that their profits, this is eating into their profits. And again, now they can't pay the mortgage and the insurance and the taxes. And what happens? They got to sell. And because them and 100 other people are doing this, had to do the same thing, when supply meets demand, dude, right? Supply and demand. If there's too many on the market, guess what? We can command our price now. Whereas, 2021, 2022, sellers could command their prices. But now, yeah, man, I would think if you're not in this game, if you've been thinking about this game, this is the time, because this is like that after effect of like a 2008 right now. I'm not going saying, this is a 2008 or anything like that, but we're doggone close. And I think it's
I think
taken
it's
a,
going to be. I think this is going to be a lot worse than 2008.
right. I don't
Me
want to be
personally.
a monger, but
No. Yeah. 2008, we didn't have 900. We didn't have almost $1 trillion of debt that needed to become financed and being
Right.
financed at a much higher interest rate. Oftentimes, 2 to 3 times the interest rate than people are refinancing. They locked them rates in at some at 3 and 4%, and now they got to refinance somewhere between 8 and 10. So, that's going to eat up a lot of the cash flow that's in a lot of that they were making on those properties, and it's going to put them in a really peculiar position,
Yeah.
especially with all the other rising costs that is occurring right now in the economy. So I
Yeah.
think it's a perfect opportunity. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
actually sitting not in the apartment space right now, but I'm actually looking for a place for my office now. To buy an office building because to put my office in, because that's what I'm looking into right now. Like, I'm getting out of this renting game. It's time for me to own my own building as opposed to paying the rent. And this is a
30,
great time.
34% declines this year alone on office spaces. Go get your bag, man. Go
That's what
get
I'm going to do. That's what I'm
it.
going to do.
Go
I
get
want to
it.
find that one. I want to find me one that I forget. I think it was in Cleveland that sold for 13 cents on the dollar. They sold the office building. I forget what the exact numbers was, but it was a crazy savings for the person who purchased that property. Amazing, amazing, amazing.
Opportunity.
Um,
Opportunity, man.
Opportunities. That's right. In tough times is always opportunities. That's one of the things that I love about, even what I do with doing strategies, especially with using life insurance as a wealth building tool, because now you got cash that you can deploy on some of these opportunities right now, because you got cash. Your cash value can go in and provide some leverage for you to go in and pick up an asset that's depressed that you can turn around and make profitable.
Mm.
So it's going to be a lot of that going on. I'm curious to see how this interest rate thing is going to play out for the rest of the year. Um, I don't know. I know Powell got something up his sleeve. Um, but inflation is really making, I think, making him change his plans a little bit, for the cuts and all of the things that he thought he was going to be able to do.
He
I'm not quite so sure that that's going to be able to be materialized.
I was saying it last year and I'll still say it now. He not cutting rates. He not cutting them. I don't see him cutting them this year. I don't see him cutting them this year, man. Like unless it gets really, really bad. And what I mean, case in point,
When you
uh,
when you look at the data, CJ, when you look at the data, cutting rates should not even be in the equation right now.
no,
They really should be raising rates.
I
But
know.
I think that the pause on the raising the rates is because so much of this debt that needs to be refinanced in the commercial space, that I think that if they really did raise interest rates the way that they supposed to, it'll really knock the economy out.
Yeah. The CPI report came out what 2 weeks ago, and thousands when that inflation came up higher than what they 2 points higher than what they expected. Man, I got a few buddies of mine that hit
Hey,
me up.
listen.
They
It's
lost.
actually higher than that. Wait till you hear the revised figure. They just gave you the one figure. Wait till the revised figure on the CPI come out. That's going to be a whole totally different conversation then. But go ahead.
Right?
I'm sorry. We
No,
we
I was
digress.
just saying, financial institutions and tech companies did more layoffs the day after that happened. The day after it happened. So, I mean, when I say bad, that's what I gave a talk a little bit earlier today, and McDonald's openly came out and said Americans that make $45,000 or less are no longer buying at McDonald's because they can't afford it. You mean to tell me close to the American average salary can't even afford to eat McDonald's? That's crazy, man. That's crazy. That's how expensive things are, and so yeah, man. I and then we got I'm not talking politics by any means, but it's a presidential election year, and things have to look good So when they give the unemployment rates, they're like, "Oh yeah, things are great. Woo!" It's like, tell me the truth.
One
So
thing they never going to do is tell you. You can forget it. You can forget about that telling the truth part. That's one thing that's not in America's DNA. They're not going to
you're
tell you
right.
the truth or nothing.
No, not at all. You
Because you got
gotta.
to remember, we've all been conditioned and we've all been trained to be consumers. So
Mm,
the minute that we stop being consumers, the whole our whole system collapses. So that's why
yeah.
they're never going to tell you the truth. They're never going to tell you to save money before you spend. They're never going to tell you to have a proper budget. They're never going to tell you all of the essentials that you should be doing with proper financial education. You're never going to get that because it goes against the grain of what makes this system works. And what makes this system works is consumerism.
Yeah.
We don't produce anything. We're trapped into what I like to call marketing messages on visualization to get you to spend money. That's what our system is built on right now. So when you start talking about going against the grain, you're gonna lose a lot of people because they're conditioned to want to spend.
Yep. Yep.
All right, I digress. I didn't mean to get into that soliloquy there. Um, But
You.
you on Money Mondays with Jeff, where we talk to dope financial professionals about wealth creation strategies on how to close the wealth gap here in America. I'm talking to Clarence Carter, also affectionately known as CJ. We, proudly served our country in the Marines, an apartment investor, and we're just talking about strategies and getting some tactics on how an apartment investing could be a valuable tool that you can add into your portfolio to really, get some wealth building going in the right direction for you. So looking ahead, we talked a little bit briefly about interest rates, and we talked a little bit about what this real estate commercial economy is going to be, particular in apartments. How do you see the investment landscape projecting 2-3 years from now? We know that this is going to be a turbulent year, but when do you think that we have the going to come out of this from a strategic standpoint? You think this is a 2 year thing that we got to ride and grind out? You think it's a 3 year, a 5 year? What's your projections on how you see this thing mapping out in the next several years?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of projections out there, right? There's a lot of them, and
How do you feel though?
we look. I mean, here's the thing. I want it to last as long as it will. I really do. Why? Because this means that the deals are there. This means that the people that want to retire, that thought they were going to retire at the very top, they can't. They just can't. They're gonna have to take what they can get or do some sort of seller financing so you don't have to go to traditional routes anymore. What I think this does is it sets us in a place where we're going to remove the traditional way of doing things. Those that will continually think it must be done this way. It must go through this bank. I must use this broker. Um, you're gonna be sitting on the sidelines probably another 5 years or so, right? But the thing is those people that know that people and land existed before these institutions did. The people that realize and recognize that are going to be the ones that you'll look at 5 years from now and like, oh my God, how'd you get so rich?
Yeah.
So many people get rich during these times, right? I know they say that we're not in a recession, but come on, man. This is that time. This is that time. It's bad as far as the news is concerned. It's bad as far as the politicians are concerned, right? It's bad. But the thing is I'm gonna tell you, stop listening to them people and go and really be out there and go and search. Go and find people that you can do deals with. That's just that.
So that's the advice that you would give someone right now starting out in apartment investing. Go find
Um,
somebody to go find something that you can do some deals with, or is this something else?
Someone starting out today, go educate yourself as much as possible, right?
Okay.
Educate yourself as much as possible. Learn how to value something, right? When you learn, I think it was Warren Buffett, or Sam Zell. I think it was Sam Zell. Sam Zell, that was his number one thing, and I believe that that's my number one thing too. Is go and understand what is the value of something, and that's a collective value, right? So I mean, of course, my mom's, pearl earrings might be worth more to me than you or something like that. You know what I mean? But I mean, literally go and find out what is the collective thought. What can people compromise on valuation on a thing? And we're talking about apartments right now. If you are wanting to start out, that's it. Understand, why would someone charge $10 million for this, right? And that's the fundamentals. When you learn that, now you can start to, you open your eye, you become aware, right? And once you're aware, you cannot go back. You know, when this person is like, hey, well, we want $50,000 more than it should be. You know that, right? You know if you're getting duped, right? Those are the things. Understand what the valuation is, and then, in addition to that, build relationships. And I'm not just saying just because someone promises you, great returns, or just looks good, or whatever, just really start to build a relationship with them. Understand what's their family life. Understand what's their past experience. Understand, what are their goals. What do they want to do? Right? How do they take them out to lunch, and see how they treat the waiters and waitresses? Right? Those are the types of things that I like, to do, is to really understand, build an emotional, intelligence, build some emotional intelligence around your relationships, and understand who people are, so you have discernment. Um, and then just understand what value is, man. Those are the things.
I want to switch gears a minute here.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about you, right? So,
Okay.
out of all of your accomplishments, um, we're just talking apartments and real estate accomplishments. Which one are you the most proudest of?
I haven't done it yet, but if I was to
Okay.
say,
Tell us
um,
about it.
it was definitely a deal that we did in Stone Mountain, and
Okay.
so it was a lot of headwinds, that the team was facing, as far as being able to raise the capital, partners, wanting to pull out, just because, hey, they wanted to go on a vacation, or what have you, right? And so what committed capital we did have, we had to kind of scrounge around, but then financing was not necessarily a pain in the butt, but who we were dealing with going with financing. Those institutions just, I want to say their name, but I don't want to say their name. But it was a $25 million deal, and here they are, kind of kicking the tires down the road, as far as being able to meet deadlines and timelines, right? And so, just the same way that you buy a house, there's an inspection period, there's a due diligence period, and the lender, everyone is more, in step with each other. Your lenders, your property managers, everyone. We're all doing weekly meetings and all of those things, and, lenders just weren't meeting their deadlines. And here it is, we're on the hook for our due diligence money, right? And, $25 million deal, we're talking, $2 million
Okay.
here. And so you go over that deadline, and regardless if you have financing or not, you lose that cash.
Oh,
That's not
wow.
our cash. That's investors' cash. And so, it was a fight, to get the lenders to actually, move forward with what they needed to do, at that period, and, down to the wire, on getting that deal closed. So that was a really crucial one. So it was about handling, just like in the Marine Corps, just getting into a situation that was, the strategy, it's playing out the right way, the plan is cool, but, Mike Tyson, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face, right? We got punched in the face and kind of had to maneuver, right, and do things, and because that maneuvering, and then still being able to be successful, that's why I would say that's a great accomplishment, right? Because anybody can do it with no problems. Right?
So what happened with the deal? Did you guys get it?
Heck yeah, own it today.
Okay. Because you said you threw me for a loop first because you said I actually didn't get it yet. So I was like, wait a minute, did you get the deal or not?
Yeah,
All
we
right.
did. We
So
did.
speaking of deals and goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we were sitting down and it was May the 6th, right? 2025,
Mm-hmm.
and we looking at next year, um, what's the big goal that you want to accomplish in real estate? Not just in real estate, let's just say in this apartment investing space.
Yeah, yeah. The big goal that I have for a year from now,
Mhm.
I want to buy 1,000 more units. I want to be
1,000
a
more units.
1,000 more units. And when I say
Where,
I
where,
want
where,
to be
where would you buy those 1,000 units?
where?
Uh-huh.
Ooh, Carolinas, um, the Carolinas. That's where I'm looking at.
We
The
talking
mid
Charlotte? We talking,
abs-
Winston Salem? Like where?
so we're talking about MSAs, right? So the
Okay.
Charlotte MSA, absolutely.
Okay.
That's where I'm looking at. So if we're even on downward to Columbia, right? So anything kind of in between the 77 corridor, um, right here within the Charlotte MSA, that's where I'm at. Raleigh is great as well. Things are still extremely overpriced. So to say a year, I don't know, it's a stretch, but it's definitely a want. But I will
Mhm.
tell you this, some of the more easier ones to kind of take down right now are out in the Midwest, right? So places like Chicago. I mean, kind of a little Chicago is Chicago, so it's kind of tread lightly with neighborhoods that you're kind of going into. There's other places in Illinois that I love, like Peoria.
Okay.
Is that have right outside of them, there's manufacturers that are coming in that are building electric cars, all types of things. So these are the types of places that I'm looking at. And so obviously those, like a smaller city won't have a 200 unit or so, right? They won't have that. And so it'll be a few more transactions. So this will look like, 50 units here, 50 units there, that type of thing. So, and so I'll say a stretch goal because it is a weird year, right? It is a very weird year. And this is me going off market, right? Not going to the brokers because the brokers just don't have the deals right now. A lot of them are getting out of the industry. So this is a lot of cold calling, going back to me trying to find that NFL player again, right? So there's a lot of
Mhm.
that, right? So yeah, that's the goal would be to add another 1,000 units, and that's a stretch in this market.
Okay. I can appreciate that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm a really big believer in representation matters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and I know it's been plenty of times when I've been to financial services meetings and symposiums where big time strategies and information is going on, and I look around in the room and I'm like, I'm the only one who looks like me here. So I can only imagine what it's like in a specialized sector like apartment investing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can you share like a moment, where you like, felt especially proud, to represent your community, especially in apartment, rental space, real estate sector where it's not a lot of us there.
I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's every moment. And I say that because it's always like that. I mean, and again, unfortunately, I've experienced it since I went in the Marine Corps. Right, since I went in the Marine Corps, my roommate was 18 years old and had never seen a black person in his life. Right,
Wow.
and after that, I got into technology. I was a programmer. Of course, no, the only one of me in the room. And so I hate, again, unfortunately, but still fortunately, um, in this space, I would be the only one. But I've grown to stretch out and find other individuals. Right, I don't have to within this apartment space. I don't have to stay secluded to where I live. right? I can make phone calls. I can travel to different events that are, clear across the country and run into some other brothers and sisters, right? And so that's one thing. I will say probably like my first conference. I was able to see. I didn't see much, but the representation that I did see was some folks that was way up here, and I was like, oh man, I love that because it's giving me something to inspire. It's possible, right? That awareness that, hey, there may not be too many of us, but dog, it's less than 10% of us that's here, in this room, and here it is at the very, very top. There's at least a few of us taking up those numbers, and to see that there, um, was definitely proud. So not just me being the representation, but to see it in other places to let me know that it's possible for me.
I kind of had that similar. I had kind of had that similar experience. I remember I spent about it was about $2,500 to go to this meeting, and when I got to the meeting, I looked at the room, and I was like, wow, it was me, and it was another sister that was there, and it was at that moment I said, and this meeting was all about wealth building strategies, like how to leverage life insurance to, like, pass money on tax free to future generations. And it was also talking about how to strategically use it to buy real estate. So that was the reason why I was at this meeting, and I wanted to look at all the tax implications and all of, just to make a long story short. I sat in that room, and I was like, I need to start to have these kind of events for people who look like me, so that they could be
Mhm.
exposed to these kind of opportunities, because a lot of times we don't participate in these kind of things because we're not aware that these kind of things exist.
Yeah.
We don't understand or been exposed to what syndication means, and how to leverage other people's money to kind of, like, build assets that's going to produce passive income for you. So it's like, um it helped me to propel. We started our first conference this year that I'm really, really, really excited about doing it over and over and over again, because it's gonna bring a forum and give people exposure to all of the possibilities that you can do in wealth building. And hopefully we can, do something, and incorporate this apartment, investing into that equation, so people can be exposed to it. Because if they're exposed to it, they might want to participate in it. And if they might want to participate in it, it could be something that can be very transformative for them in their wealth building journey. And that is the thing that I think is really missing, some of the non-traditional ways that you can go about
Mhm.
not only making money, but keeping money and protecting money and passing money to future generations, is the thing that we need to start to get exposure to. And then and then what tripped me out is, like, they've been doing these things for years.
Forever.
I'm like, what is, it's like, and it was like, it was funny because one of the guys, I was at the meeting, and I was like, man, this is all new. And he looked at me and said, it might, this is not new. This is just new to you. And I was like, that was the wake up call for me to really to be like, okay, it's go time now, because it's strategies that people have been using for many, many, many years that we
Yeah.
have no idea
Mhm.
even that it exists.
Yeah.
So I thank you for, like, coming and being vulnerable, and, like, kind of talking about, like, what it is. And I think we need to have more conversations. Like, the aim of this Money Mondays is to, expose people to the conversations about
Yes.
wealth building, because
Yes.
it's not a big thing that's happening in our communities. And I am so happy that more of these conversations are starting to happen.
Yes.
I'm happy to see more people utilizing social media to have these kind of conversations, because when you understand what's going on, you'll know what to do, right? So let me stop preaching because my wife is going to be like, Jeff, you always preaching. Stop preaching so much.
I
But I feel like this is
Shout out
something
to
that is
you
very
for the
important.
summit, man. Shout out to you for the summit. That was it was an amazing event. I learned a lot. My family, as we were driving, during some of the times I was driving, my wife was like, "Oh my gosh, I never heard of that strategy before," right? Even my kids were listening. So, Jeff, you're doing the world a wonder, my man, and you know it. Even though you may not see it all the time, but you even touch my son, right? You even touch my son on the information that was delivered then. So man, I love what you're doing, dude. Keep it up. And if you need me, if you think what I can bring is a little bit valuable, I'm there. Just let me
I
know.
got you on tape, so I'm gonna replay this tape back. What you just said. I'm gonna replay this back to you when I need you. I'm gonna come calling for you, right?
Hold me to it, bro. Hold me to it, brother.
So let me ask you a question, right? Let me change gears because I'm a really big believer in mentorship, and I invest a lot of money in mentorship. And mentorship has really been a blessing to me. When I tell you, having a mentor at all stage, I've been
Yeah,
doing this for 26 years, man. I think I was 3 years without having an official mentor. Like for the last 23 years, I've had a mentor, like mentoring me in all aspects of my life to make me become better because I believe that you are your most viable asset. And as you get better, everything around you get better as well. And I believe mentorship plays a key in helping you to get better, right?
yeah,
So if um if one final question,
yeah,
I know we're about to we're about to roll, but I got one final question. If you
yeah.
had to mentor someone in this apartment space, right, and investing in this apartment space, what would you tell your mentee? I'm sorry.
Ooh, I thought you were going to go the other way about having a mentor, which I think is essential, right? But going the other route, as a matter of fact, I did have a call with someone that I'm helping now. As a matter of fact, I off and on I do mentor people within this space, and so a lot of what I tell them again is choose. So one person doesn't have to do it all. One person should not do it all, especially if we're talking about playing with, a couple $1 million, right, of other people's money. You've heard the saying, if I, go get hit by a bus, what happens, right? It's a contingency plan. And so the big thing is to build a team, right? Find a team of people. Um, you know, it you find a team of people, and here's typically what that looks like. It's you have a teammate that is good with relationships, right? And so you don't even have to be the relationship person, right? Like I mean, we like relationships, but you don't have to be that. But one person does, and why? Because this person is going to have to be the person that goes and gets people to put millions of dollars into you all's account. That's just that, right? So you're going to need that person. You're going to need someone that's analytical, right? All these people can be the same people, but you're going to at least need more than one person. But you'll need someone that's analytical, someone that will spend hours and hours looking at a deal, right? Talking about the rent growth, talking about why this market, talking about why this property, right? And we'll study this thing, stock it. You know how people will stock people's Facebook accounts? You're going to stock this property, right? Going to stock it, everything that there is to know about it. When was it built? When was the last time the plumbing was changed? When was the last time the electrical was changed? All of this stuff, right? All of the years, all of everything, all of the documentation. You're going to need someone that's you're going to need a hammer, basically. You're going to need someone that has an attitude of a project manager, right? Someone that can talk to property management, right? I said a project manager mindset, because they're going to be the ones that need to go in and say, hey, is the job getting done? So as you're managing this asset, you need to have a heart behind, right? You're gonna need to have someone that's willing to have hard conversations with people and get them moving, right? And then this other person, there's four people, but this person and more than likely blends in with others, but they need to be kind of the hunter, right? Someone that is looking for the deals, right? Someone that's out there talking to the brokers, building the professional relationships, the B2B relationships, right? So this one, you got two relationship people. One that's building the B2C, your business to the customers, your investors. You need that. But you know that that's a little bit of a different conversation than it is with B2B, where it's my business talking to the business of the brokerages, right? Or the sellers, right? Having that conversation. So those are typically different types of conversations. So those are for the four personalities that I would tell my mentee to go and find. Go and find people to surround yourself. And then, honestly, it's going to do everybody some good to just pick up the phone and call whoever, whether it's an investor, whether it's a property manager, whether it's a broker. Pick up the phone and just call people, because I'm a technology person. I'm a millennial. I love my smartphone. I love Facebook. Facebook was supposed to be my first investment over Tesla. I love technology. I love it, but it has not replaced this. It has not replaced this, and those that think it has will be the ones that get left behind. That's just
Any
that.
final thoughts you want to share with the audience?
Um, Yo, listen to Jeff. This guy is amazing. He has a strong passion for building wealth, not with just in his arena, but in your arena, right? Watching him do his event and the passion that he did it with, and the people that he brought alongside him, um, was just phenomenal. It was magical, and to be having this conversation with him, I think it's fantastic. And like he says, get started, get in the game, get great. That's just it, right? Whether it's you want to do apartment investing or you want to do residential, go get your life insurance policies, right? Do that so that you're set up for success to invest wherever it is that you're interested in. I encourage you to diversify. And if apartments is a part of that, I'm always open for questions.
How can people reach you?
Hey, I'm on Facebook, Clarence Carter. I'm on Instagram, Clarence J Carter underscore. You could call me because you won't. It's 202-497-5884. That's it, man.
All right. We was Clarence C.J. Carter, Money Mondays with Jeff, where we talk to dope financial professionals on wealth building strategies. And, we talk about some things about closing the wealth gap here in America, because America's wealth gap needs to be closed, especially for people who look like me. And we talk about generational wealth, because your money going to go somewhere. We want you to make sure that it go to your family, because your family can spend it better than the Internal Revenue Service or hospitals or nursing homes or financial institutions or other wealthy people. Your money is going to go somewhere. Make sure you send it forward to who you want to send it to. So thank you guys. I hope you got some value out of this episode today. Make sure you like this, comment, leave a comment. Let me know who you would like for us to talk to in the wealth building space. Send me a message. Put it down in a comment section in Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube or wherever you saw this at. Make sure you drop us a comment and give us a like and keep us alive on social media so we can continue to bring you valuable content, because when you understand what's going on, you will know what to do. You guys have a great night, and I look forward to seeing you next Monday on Money Mondays with Jeff, where we'll have another dope financial professional to give you some information to help you to elevate your wealth building skills. Have a great day, guys, and I'll
Love
see
it,
you
Jeff.
next. Thanks a lot, CJ, man. I'll see you soon, man.
I appreciate you, brother.
All right.